Okay, now the bend. The bending form is set up so that you'll see there's a shelf here at the back, and that shelf matches the height of that rear relief area upside down. So you want to set this on that shelf, and you want that center mark dead centered. Now if you get this into a vise, as long as you make sure that the pitch is not downward, it will hold the vise, or I'm sorry, it will hold the form and the sidewalls very stably right at the center point. And then from that point, a bend is as easy as pie. What you want to be careful of is that you're not bending, let's say, up here. You want to get your force spread out, and you can do this by hand. You can attach a couple of solid pieces of steel if you like, if that makes you feel more comfortable, or if it makes you feel like you've got better control. But you want the bend to happen from the center out. Okay. Now we've got this closed to about 25 or 30 degrees. Still plenty of room to get the bridge piece in later. Okay. It looks pretty centered. Yeah, I'd say that's well centered. And the way this is sized, once you get to about a 15 to 20 degree opening, these front pieces are just going to nudge up against the front of the wall. So we can take this off now, and the first part of the bend is done. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do then is put in place the bridge. On one side, and put this back in the form. I'm going to mount it so that the top of this piece is actually just a bit above the vise, so that I can get the sidewalls clear of the rear of that vise. Okay, so now the bending form is held nice and still. Okay, but the top piece is loose. So now what I need to do is I need to bend this closed, get the other side of the bridge in place, and then I'll slide my front piece in to lock it. So this is a place where you can remove this and use the vise. I tend to prefer to use a large C-clamp at this point because I can juggle it around quite a bit. And if you need to, if your bend is not quite even, you can jostle it a bit by tilting. So for instance, if I put it in like this, okay, that's going to roll the bend forward. So if this side is longer than this side, I can correct it somewhat by coming in at a bit of an angle like so, right? And vice versa. Okay. The other problems are if these tops are not coplanar, that will tend to work itself out as we get this bridge in place. Okay. And basically, once we close it, if this bridge fits in place, we're even. So I'm going to mount this back in. Okay. So I'm starting this with this in the front because it's easier for me to jockey the bridge piece around a bit while I do that. I'm going to move it back to this rear portion later to get a nice flat even bend. So you can see we're quite close. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off, move it to the rear. And see if we can finish closing this up. Okay. So I'm gonna have to just a couple of taps to try and seat that. Oh, didn't even need them. Okay, so the bridge is now seated in its mortises. All right, before I close it all the way, I'm now gonna try and drop back down a bit so we can press the rear of that bend back up against the form. Doesn't need to go all the way up, but whatever we can get will help. Okay. That looks good. Okay, I'm going to take the whole operation out of the vise now. And then I'm going to add a second C-clamp up here so that we can finally get that front piece completely in place. I can almost manage it by hand. In fact, I can manage it by hand. So here it is by hand. You'll see it's not quite closed all the way, but at this point, it's closed up that now I can do some significant tweaking if I need to for shape. Okay, so we're gonna set it so that the sidewalls are down against this outer edge. And now we're no longer on a bending form, this is now a peening form. Okay. So I'm coming in just behind the tenons for the bridge. Give that a bit of a squeeze. And then I'm going to come in front of those tenons for the bridge, but behind the front piece. Give that a bit of a squeeze. Okay. So we're fairly good right now. Let's see how well our sole is going to fit. Okay, so a little gentle tapping, and our sole fits.